Welcome back to Who Died Today USA channel. In the past few days, we have received somber news about the passing of extraordinary talents. Today's episode is dedicated to honoring their memory. Additionally, we will recap the stars we have recently lost. Before we begin, we kindly ask for your support. If this video or the legacies of these remarkable individuals have touched your life, please consider giving this video a thumbs up as a sign of respect and remembrance. Thank you. Junior Edwards, a well-known figure from the reality series Swamp People, has passed away, leaving behind a legacy deeply rooted in the Louisiana bayous. His death was shared on July 26th by his grandson, Lil Willie Edwards, in a heartfelt tribute that reflected the love and admiration their family shared. Willie painted a touching picture of his grandfather at peace, already casting nets in the great beyond, just as he did in the swamps they called home. Junior was revered not only for his fearless alligator hunting, but also for his unwavering dedication to family and tradition. Fellow cast member Ashley "Dead-Eye" Jones remembered him as a true legend on the water, recalling his unmatched skill and quiet strength during the toughest hunts. A familiar face from the show's early seasons, Junior first appeared in 2010 and made a surprise return in 2021, reminding fans of the grit and heart that made him beloved. While the cause of his death remains private, the impact he left on the show and its audience continues to resonate. His spirit lives on in the stories, memories, and waters he once called home. Ziad Rahbani, the influential Lebanese composer, playwright, and cultural force, has died at the age of 69. His passing was confirmed on July 26th in Beirut, where he succumbed to a heart attack, leaving the Arab world mourning the loss of a voice that shaped its artistic and political discourse for decades. Born into a family of musical royalty, his mother, the legendary Fairuz, and father composer Ziad Rahbani, Ziad carved his own distinct path. By the age of 17, he had composed Saluni El Nas for his mother, a song that marked the beginning of a bold and unconventional career. His work challenged societal norms, blending satire, political critique, and emotional depth in both music and theater. In his final days, Ziad reportedly declined further medical intervention, a decision that echoed the defiant independence he carried throughout his life. Across Lebanon and beyond, tributes have poured in, honoring not only a masterful artist, but a truth-teller whose rhythms and words spoke for generations. Though silenced in body, Ziad Rahbani's spirit will endure, etched in melody, memory, and the collective heart of his people. Charles Kojo Fosu, widely known as Daddy Lumba, has passed away at the age of 60, leaving Ghana and the wider African music scene in deep mourning. His death followed a brief illness, marking the end of a remarkable journey that helped define highlife music for nearly 4 decades. Born in Nssuta in 1964, Daddy Lumba emerged as a powerful voice in the 1980s, captivating audiences with songs that blended poetic storytelling with rhythms rooted in tradition. His music often reflected the highs and lows of everyday life, resonating deeply with listeners across generations. With more than 30 albums to his credit, Lumba became a national treasure, producing timeless hits such as Aben Woha and Aso. His last known release, Na Edi Am Fo, in 2022, affirmed that his creative spirit remained strong. In February, he thrilled fans with a memorable Valentine's Day concert, a performance that now feels like a farewell. Tributes from across the nation describe him as a musical giant whose influence shaped the sound of modern Ghana. Though his voice is now silent, Daddy Lumba's legacy will echo for generations to come. A towering figure in the world of rock, Ozzy Osbourne has passed away at the age of 76, leaving behind a legacy that shaped the very foundation of heavy metal. Revered by generations, Ozzy was more than a musician. He was a cultural force, known for his raw voice, rebellious spirit, and fearless creativity. His family confirmed his peaceful passing on July 22nd, surrounded by loved ones. From his explosive rise with Black Sabbath in the 1970s to a wildly successful solo career, Ozzy delivered anthems that became the heartbeat of rock history. Songs like Iron Man, War Pigs, and Crazy Train defined a sound and era, while his unrelenting stage presence made him unforgettable. Despite being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, Ozzy's passion never dimmed. He faced declining health with courage, returning to the stage one last time in Birmingham, seated, but still thunderous in voice. Beyond the music, he became a household name through the Osbournes, blending shock and sincerity in equal measure. Honored with numerous accolades, including a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, Ozzy Osbourne leaves a powerful imprint on music and memory alike. Jiří Krampoll, a towering legend of Czech entertainment, has passed away at the age of 87, closing a remarkable chapter in the nation's cultural history. For decades, he was a familiar presence, whether on screen, stage, or television, bringing laughter, wit, and sincerity to every role he embraced. Born with a natural gift for performance, Krampoll became one of the most beloved faces in Czech media, captivating audiences with his comedic timing, heartfelt delivery, and warm charisma. His versatility knew no bounds. From dramatic roles to hosting television programs, he remained a constant in the lives of viewers across generations. On Saturday evening, he died in hospital after a long period of health struggles. Though illness increasingly limited his public appearances, Krampoll never lost touch with his fans. Even in later years, he made efforts to connect, offering glimpses of the humor and humanity that made him a national treasure. His passing marks more than the loss of a celebrated actor. It marks the departure of a symbol of Czech joy and resilience. Jiří Krampoll's spirit will live on in every smile his performances continue to inspire. Tom Lehrer, the legendary American satirist and musician, has passed away at the age of 97, leaving behind a legacy as bold and brilliant as the songs he composed. Known for blending biting humor with unmatched intellect, Lehrer redefined musical satire in mid-20th century America, becoming a singular voice in both comedy and commentary. A Harvard-educated mathematician, Lehrer balanced two seemingly opposing worlds, academia and absurdity. His clever compositions like The Elements, The Masochism Tango, and Poisoning Pigeons in the Park became cult classics, adored for their fearless wit and linguistic precision. Though he gained national fame, he remained deeply committed to education, teaching at prestigious institutions, including MIT and the University of California. Lehrer's work challenged authority, skewered politics, and embraced the taboo, all while making audiences laugh and think. His influence stretched far beyond the stage, even contributing to educational programming for children. In a final generous act, he released his entire musical catalog into the public domain in 2020. Tom Lehrer's voice may be gone, but his sharp satire and fearless creativity will continue to echo for generations to come. Marlene Warfield, a trailblazing force in American theater and film, has passed away at the age of 83. Known for her powerful presence and fearless performances, Warfield carved a space for herself in roles that demanded both fire and depth, leaving a lasting impact on stage, and screen. Her death, due to lung cancer, was confirmed by her sister on April 6th in Los Angeles. Born in Queens and raised in Brooklyn, Warfield's journey into the arts began with training in both music and acting. She rose to prominence on Broadway in 1968 as Clara in The Great White Hope, a role that earned her critical acclaim and led to the film adaptation alongside James Earl Jones. In 1976, she stunned audiences as the fierce Laureen Hobbs in the Oscar-winning Network, delivering lines still remembered decades later. Her range extended to television, joining Maude in its final season and later appearing in beloved series like ER, Law and Order, and The West Wing. Marlene Warfield's artistry was fearless, her voice unwavering. She is survived by her son, grandson, and sister, and remembered through characters that still burn bright with purpose and passion. Cleo Laine, a towering figure in the world of jazz and one of Britain's most cherished musical icons, has tragically passed away at the age of 97. Her rich, smoky contralto and astonishing vocal range made her a singular presence on the world stage. A voice that could move effortlessly from sultry ballads to soaring scat, and a spirit that defied boundaries in both music and life. Born Clementina Dinah Campbell in 1927 in London, Laine's journey from modest roots to international stardom remains one of jazz's most remarkable stories. She rose to prominence in the 1950s with the Johnny Dankworth Seven, eventually forging her own path as a solo artist whose performances captivated audiences from London's West End to New York's Carnegie Hall. Her achievements crossed genres and generations, with standout roles in Showboat and The Mystery of Edwin Drood, as well as a Tony nomination and Grammy wins. In 1997, she was named a Dame, the first British jazz artist to receive the honor. The Stables, the venue she co-founded with her late husband, Sir John Dankworth, confirmed her passing. Cleo Laine's legacy, bold and breathtaking, will forever echo through the world of music. Malcolm Jamal Warner, a cherished figure in American television and a voice of cultural resonance, has tragically passed away at the age of 54. His sudden death, caused by drowning while on a family vacation in Costa Rica, has left fans and peers mourning the loss of a talent whose impact spanned generations. Known for his warmth, intellect, and quiet strength, Warner became a symbol of a new era in television. He rose to prominence in the 1980s as Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show, a role that helped redefine portrayals of Black family life in mainstream media. His performance brought humor, sincerity, and emotional depth to millions of households, and he carried that legacy with pride throughout his career. Beyond his iconic start, Warner continued to evolve as an actor and creator, with standout roles in Malcolm and Eddie, Read Between the Lines, The Resident, and appearances in Suits 911, and others. In 2023, he launched a thoughtful podcast delving into identity and authenticity. He is survived by his wife and daughter, whom he deeply protected from public view. Malcolm Jamal Warner's tragical passing marks the end of a luminous presence whose influence will not fade. Hulk Hogan, a towering legend who forever transformed professional wrestling into a global phenomenon, has tragically passed away at the age of 71. With unmatched charisma, immense physical presence, and boundless energy, Hogan became not just the face of WWE, but a symbol of pop culture itself. His death, due to cardiac arrest at his Florida home, was confirmed on July 24th, sending shockwaves through the world of sports and entertainment. Born Terry Bollea, Hogan rose from humble beginnings to become a cultural titan in the 1980s and 90s. With his iconic handlebar mustache, signature red and yellow gear, and the unforgettable cry of, "What ya gonna do?" he redefined what it meant to be a wrestling superstar. His battles with legends like Andre the Giant and The Rock remain etched in history, alongside a record of 12 world championships and 2 WWE Hall of Fame inductions. Outside the ring, Hogan's influence expanded through films, television, and reality shows like Hogan Knows Best. Despite personal and public challenges, his name remained etched in the hearts of millions. Survived by his wife Skye and 2 children, Hulk Hogan's tragical passing marks the end of an era, but Hulkamania will live on in spirit, strength, and legacy. Connie Francis, a legendary voice who defined an era of American pop music, has tragically passed away at the age of 87. With a sound that captured hearts across the world, Francis stood as one of the most influential female artists of the 1950s and 60s. A true pioneer whose voice became a symbol of love, longing, and strength. Born Conchetta Franconero in Newark, New Jersey, she began singing at the age of 4 and rose through the ranks with determination and raw talent. Her big break came in 1958 when Who's Sorry Now skyrocketed to fame after airing on American Bandstand. From there, a trail of hits like Where the Boys Are and Everybody's Somebody's Fool followed, making her the first solo woman to top the Billboard Hot 100. Though her later years were marked by personal tragedies and health challenges, Connie never faded from public affection. She used her platform to advocate for mental health and victims of violence, becoming as admired for her courage as for her music. Her death was confirmed on July 17th, just weeks after she had shared hopeful words with fans. Connie Francis is survived by her son and remembered forever for a voice and spirit that refused to be silenced. Anne Burrell, a dazzling force in the culinary world and beloved television personality, has tragically passed away at the age of 55. Known for her unmistakable platinum spikes, infectious energy, and deep passion for cooking, Anne brought joy and confidence to kitchens across America. Her death, which occurred on the morning of June 17th at her Brooklyn home, was confirmed by her family, who were by her side in her final moments. Born in Cazenovia, New York, Anne's culinary journey led her from the halls of the Culinary Institute of America to the heart of Italy, where she immersed herself in the traditions of Italian cuisine. Her fearless style and warm teaching spirit made her a standout on Food Network, particularly as host of Worst Cooks in America, where she inspired struggling home cooks with heart and humor. Beyond the screen, she earned accolades as a best-selling author and dedicated advocate for causes close to her heart, including City Harvest and the Garden of Dreams Foundation. Anne Burrell's tragical passing leaves a deep void in the world of food and television. She is survived by her husband, Stuart Claxton, and a legacy as bold, generous, and unforgettable as her flavors.
Anybody ever died from basic?
She wasn't just the radiant heart of Hollywood. She was its breath, its heartbeat, its fleeting moment of golden light before night fell. Her name once stood as a symbol of joy, not the shallow, fleeting kind, but the kind that stays with you like a childhood memory, too soft to touch. From the wide-eyed innocence of Tony Simmons in Cactus Flower, a role that didn't just win her an Oscar but quietly marked the birth of a new kind leading woman, vulnerable, sincere, and disarmingly real. To the haunted resilience of Judy Benjamin in Private Benjamin, where behind the comedy echoed the cry of a woman searching for meaning after loss. And then, Elise Elliott in The First Wives Club, a dazzling starlet whose smile masked decades of fear and fading worth, Goldie Hawn didn't merely play characters, she offered parts of her own soul, piece by aching piece, across generations. She became a mirror for millions, reflecting our joy, our sadness, our hope, while hiding her own behind the glare of the spotlight. She gave the world laughter so effortlessly that few ever thought to ask what it cost her to keep smiling. Now, at 80, that cost is no longer hidden. The pain she once tucked behind glittering eyes and perfect timing has begun to surface, not loudly, but like a slow, aching tide that refuses to recede. And in this video, we won't just tell you what happened. We'll walk you into the heartbreak no one saw coming, into the silence behind the applause, into the shadow behind the star. But first, take a breath. Think back. On a scale of 0 to 100, where does Goldie Hawn live in your memory? What did she mean to you? Leave your answer in the comments, because your memory is a tribute, and she deserves to be remembered. Not just as a star, but as a soul who gave everything so we could feel something. Long before the lights of Hollywood ever touched her face, Goldie Hawn lived inside a quiet storm, a world where the shadows weren't cast by stage lighting, but by invisible fears that settled into her bones before she even knew how to name them. Born on November 21st, 1945, in Washington, D.C., she entered a household humming with music, grace, and unspoken expectations. Her mother, Laura, ran a dance school filled with pliés and discipline. Her father, Edward, played in a band, bringing rhythm into every corner of their home. To an outsider, it looked like a postcard of artistry and order. But inside Goldie's small chest, something heavy stirred, something silent, shapeless, and endlessly pressing. As a little girl growing up in Tacoma Park, Maryland, Goldie was praised constantly for her radiant energy and beauty. Her eyes were wide and expressive. Her smile had a glow that could soften any room. But the smile was a shield, and behind those luminous eyes lived a child gripped by dread. Long before she understood the word anxiety, she felt it in her breath, short, shallow, stolen. In the silence between bedtime stories, in the long shadows on her bedroom wall, in the dissonance between the joy she was told to express and the fear she could never outrun. She feared everything: darkness, war, losing her parents, even joy itself, as if happiness was too fragile to hold. She once admitted she never believed she'd live long enough to have her first kiss. Let that settle. A child so overcome by fear that love, the very thing she craved, felt unreachable. While other children dreamed of fame, tiaras, or space shuttles, Goldie's dream was simpler and sadder. To feel safe, to wake up without the weight of panic on her chest, to stop pretending that she was okay when everything inside her screamed otherwise. At just 11 years old, when asked if she wanted to be famous, she replied with a clarity so pure it broke your heart. "No, I just want to be happy." It wasn't the answer the world was expecting, but it was the only one that rang true. School offered no relief. She struggled with reading and was placed in the lowest academic group in her class, a quiet, public humiliation that deepened her belief that she wasn't enough, that she was already behind. Even in a race, no one told her she was running. Her sense of self-worth became fragile, like a glass figurine in a storm, constantly threatened by comparison, subtle judgment, and the suffocating expectation to be perfect. And then there was dance. At the age of 3, Goldie began ballet lessons. Her feet were small, her steps unsteady, but the moment music filled the air, something inside her changed. Movement became her first true language. Dance wasn't about applause or attention, it was sanctuary. A space where no one measured her, where mirrors didn't reflect failure, only motion. It was the one realm where her anxiety couldn't follow. where fear softened, then disappeared. In those fleeting moments, she wasn't broken, she wasn't afraid, she was free. Her dream was never Hollywood. It was to open a ballet school of her own, to teach little girls how to feel music the way she did, to build a space where fear stopped at the door, where no child had to perform joy, they could just live in it. But fate, indifferent and relentless, had other plans. By her teenage years, her charm and natural emotional clarity made her impossible to ignore. She began performing in local theaters, church halls, community stages. Audiences adored her. They clapped, they laughed, they leaned forward when she spoke. She smiled back, but inside, she was trembling. The anxiety hadn't left. It had only changed costumes. Now wearing the polished face of stage fright, the pressure of attention, the unrelenting task of being everyone's reason to smile. Her first trip to New York at 18 was meant to be a triumph. She had landed a job dancing at the World's Fair, but when she arrived, the friends she was meant to stay with had vanished. Alone in an unfamiliar city, with nowhere to sleep, most people would have panicked. Goldie didn't. Not because she wasn't scared, but because fear was already a lifelong companion. She didn't collapse. She didn't complain. She found her old dance teacher, asked for shelter, and kept going. Quiet resilience had become the muscle she unknowingly trained her entire life. Behind every glittering smile she would eventually offer to the world, there lived a little girl who once feared waking up. A child who stitched her courage into choreography, who built herself on a dance floor, who learned to make the world laugh because she couldn't quite make herself feel okay. Goldie's childhood wasn't marked by violent trauma or grand tragedy. It was etched with a softer kind of ache, the ache of being misunderstood, of having a storm inside while the world only saw sunlight, of longing for stillness in a life constantly pulled toward performance and noise. Even as success began to flicker on the horizon, even as the cameras slowly turned toward her, at her core, Goldie Hawn remained that child in the dark, whispering the only truth that ever mattered. I just want to be happy. And that longing, quiet, unshakable, achingly human, would follow her, shadow-like, through every step of the life the world mistook for a dream. She became a star, but never once felt like she belonged to the galaxy they placed her in. Her ascent to fame wasn't a calculated climb, but an almost accidental stumble into the blinding light. It began with the role of Tony Simmons in the 1969 film Cactus Flower. A character defined by innocence, vulnerability, and wide-eyed wonder. Goldie embodied her with such raw sincerity that the world couldn't look away. The Academy crowned her with an Oscar, but Goldie wasn't there to receive it. She didn't show up. She hadn't watched the ceremony. When told she had won, she thought it was a joke. I wasn't even thinking about it, she later confessed. I had already moved on. It was not a moment of celebration for her. It was a moment of disconnection. To the outside world, it looked like she had finally arrived. But inside, she felt like a stranger to herself, lost in a narrative she didn't write, cast in a role she never auditioned for. The golden statue didn't feel like a reward. It felt like a mirror, cold and unfamiliar, reflecting a version of her that felt distant. What should have been the crowning joy of her career became something far lonelier. A reminder of how far apart her inner truth was from the glittering story the world was telling about her. Instead of euphoria, there was unease. Instead of triumph, exposure. And with that came the slow unraveling. The pressure to inhabit the identity of America's sweetheart, a title she never asked for, began to weigh down every breath she took. The more people adored her, the more she questioned whether she was worthy of being adored. Panic attacks returned, fiercer than ever. The same spotlight that lifted her up now illuminated every fragile corner of her psyche. Her smiles, so bright and familiar to millions, became rehearsed shields, paper-thin defenses hiding a trembling soul. By 21, she sought therapy, not as a temporary balm, but as a desperate act of preservation. For 8 long years, she sat in rooms lined with silence, trying to untangle the knots within her, to name the ache, to stay afloat. Fame hadn't fixed anything. It had simply drawn the curtain open on all the wounds she had kept hidden. It was cruel in its irony. The more the world celebrated her, the more isolated she became. She once said, "People think being a star means you're happy, but being a star just means you're watched." That single line, haunting, raw, and true, would echo across her career, especially through the 1970s and 1980s. Private Benjamin, Overboard, Shampoo, The First Wives Club. Each film was a hit. Each made the world laugh. But for Goldie, they were something more. They were not just roles, they were quiet confessions. In Private Benjamin, she played a pampered widow running from her past. A woman rebuilding herself in chaos. It wasn't just comedy. It was her life, mirrored in fiction. Her Best Actress nomination wasn't about fame. It was a soft acknowledgement of her truth. In The First Wives Club, she was Elise, glamorous, desperate, fading, a woman clawing for relevance in a world obsessed with youth. Goldie didn't act that pain. She lived it. She poured heartbreak into every line, not as performance, but as catharsis. One critic called it her most layered role. To Goldie, it was simply honest. In Overboard, her character lost her identity. The metaphor was personal. She too feared becoming invisible behind the glow of fading fame. In Shampoo, she stood beside giants, yet carved her place with quiet vulnerability and raw grace. Her success was never just talent, it was survival. The strength to keep showing up, to keep laughing, even when the joy was gone, even when no one asked how much it cost her to keep shining. Hollywood adored her smile, but rarely stopped to ask, was she okay beneath it? That, perhaps, was the tragedy. Later, she turned to producing, not for power, but for protection. She co-founded her own company not to chase prestige, but to safeguard her voice. She knew staying too long in front of the camera would eventually silence her. So she stepped behind it, not to escape, but to rewrite. Protocol, House Sitter, light comedies on the surface, but underneath, they were quiet revolutions, statements of agency, films shaped by a woman who refused to be reduced. She didn't chase fame, she withstood it. And that endurance, quiet, bleeding, and beautifully human, is what makes Goldie Hawn unforgettable. As the lights dimmed and the applause faded into memory, a different kind of sorrow began to unfold, one no audience could witness, one that lived quietly in the corners of her existence. The woman who once lit up the silver screen with sunshine and laughter began to lose the very light she had given so generously to others. Her world, once sharp and vibrant, began to blur like a dream slipping from morning's grasp. In recent years, Goldie Hawn made a heartbreaking confession, one that silenced even the most skeptical hearts. "I can barely see anything." Cataracts, creeping slowly and cruelly, had stolen her vision day by day, forcing her to face a bitter irony. The very woman who helped generations see joy was now struggling to see at all. Her appearance at the 2025 Oscars was meant to be a celebration, a reunion between icon and audience. But as she stood beside Andrew Garfield, reading from the teleprompter, became a battle. The words blurred, her voice trembled, and with a broken smile, she said it, gently, almost apologetically. "I'm completely blind. Cataracts." The room froze. Time stopped. It wasn't just an admission of illness. It was a mirror, held up to the passage of decades, to the cruelty of age, to the distance between the luminous girl we once knew and the woman now standing in soft defeat. That one sentence shattered something inside us, as if all the beauty and joy she had ever given was suddenly swallowed in a single deafening moment of silence. But aging didn't stop there. It crept deeper, into spaces fame could never protect. In the quiet of her home, far from scripts and sets, Goldie mourned not only her vision, but time itself. Not in vague reflections, but in sharp, specific regrets. "I missed games, I missed moments, and those are things you can't get back." Her voice cracked when she said it, not from weakness, but from truth. She wasn't speaking as a star, she was speaking as a mother who paid the ultimate price for giving the world everything but herself. Her 2 marriages, first to Gus Traconis, then to Bill Hudson, didn't end in scandal, but in silence. She never spoke ill of them, never played the victim, but the pain lingered in the background, like a song no one finished writing. The split from Bill was especially heavy. It fractured more than just a love story. It fractured a family. Her children, Kate and Oliver, distanced themselves from their father, and though Goldie rarely said it aloud, she carried that fracture like a quiet wound, one stitched together by guilt and longing she could never name. Then came Kurt Russell. He didn't see a star. He saw a woman bruised, wise, still searching, still worthy. Their love became something real, something that lasted. But even that wasn't effortless. "People think because we lasted, it was easy," she once said. It wasn't. It was daily work. They never married. Not because they didn't believe in forever, but because they had seen too many forevers fall apart. Even now, in soft moments of reflection, she wonders, was that a mistake too? Her relationship with her children became her anchor, the one place where light still entered her life freely. And yet, even in that sacred bond, shadows lingered. She had missed their childhood, missed the little things, the scraped knees, the whispered fears, the first heartbreaks she wasn't there to hold. She gave them everything she could, but sometimes feared it was never enough. She watched them rise to their own fame, especially Kate, and quietly questioned, did I pass on not only talent, but pain? And beneath it all, beneath the laughter, the elegance, the legacy, the old ghost remained, anxiety. It never truly left. Even in her 70s and 80s, there were days she could barely breathe, days where leaving the house felt like climbing a mountain. Behind the flawless makeup and camera-ready smile was a woman holding herself together with breathwork, meditation, and raw determination. And still, the world expected her to smile. Hollywood, as always, moved on. Younger faces filled the screens, the calls slowed, then stopped, for the woman once worshipped for her glow, her voice, her light. It was a quiet vanishing. She never complained, but being forgotten, that ache never truly healed. She once whispered, "It's not the death of fame that hurts, it's the fading, the forgetting." And what could be more human than that? Yet even as her body weakened, her purpose deepened. Goldie turned toward something greater, something lasting. She gave herself fully to the Mind Up Foundation, determined to give children the tools she never had, to face fear, to name their feelings, to find calm amidst chaos. She no longer stood on stage to perform. She stood to teach, to heal, to give voice to the silent battles children fight every day. And though her own war never truly ended, she transformed her scars into sanctuary. She never asked to be pitied. She only asked to be remembered. Not just for the joy she gave, but for the pain she carried so quietly, so bravely, so selflessly. Now at 80, her steps are slower, her eyes dim, her world quieter, smaller, but her light still flickers, still shines, still reaches into the dark corners of others' lives and whispers, "You're not alone." A life like hers cannot be measured in statues or headlines. It must be measured in laughter given, tears understood, and silence endured with grace. She was the sunshine of a bashar generation. And even now, as twilight settles, that warmth lingers in every soul she touched. If her light ever reached you, even for a moment, let her know. Leave a word, leave a memory. Even the strongest stars deserve to know they're still seen. And if someday her name disappears from marquees, if her films stop playing and the camera turns away forever, let one truth remain. Goldie Hawn was never just an actress. She was a lighthouse for the lost, a soft laugh in the dark, a reminder that those who shine the brightest often carry the deepest shadows. And when the applause fades and the screens go dark, the most enduring legacy is not what the world saw in her, but what she saw in the world, even as it faded from her view. That is the most beautiful heartbreak of all. At 80, Goldie Hawn is no longer just a star. She is a constellation in Hollywood's sky, forever burning in the memory of those she once made laugh, cry, and believe again. She was Tony Simmons in Cactus Flower, sweet and wide-eyed, whose innocence made the world fall in love and won her an Oscar. She was Judy Benjamin, terrified but determined, reminding us all that reinvention begins where comfort ends. She was Elise in The First Wives Club, dazzling and wounded, fighting invisibility with wit and wine. And in Overboard, she gave us a woman stripped of identity, yet radiant with rediscovery. Each role wasn't just a performance. It was a piece of her soul, offered with grace, humor, and raw vulnerability. And in love, she did what few ever do in this business. She endured. With Kurt Russell, she built a partnership that defied convention, but bloomed with truth. No rings, no headlines, just decades of daily choosing, of holding hands and holding space. In a world obsessed with fairy tales, they lived a reality far more rare, a love that grew through storms, not just sunshine. Today, Goldie Hawn's days are no longer shaped by film sets or camera flashes, but by slower, softer rituals of peace. She wakes not to step into character, but to step into stillness. A cup of tea in hand, the golden hush of morning pouring into her garden. There, beneath lavender skies and birdsong, she meditates, not to escape, but to return, to breathe, to simply exist without expectation. And in that silence, she reconnects with the parts of herself that fame once forced into hiding. Her home is not a monument to her success, but a haven of humility. It pulses with the ordinary magic of family, the chaotic joy of grandchildren, the quiet rhythm of morning routines, the gentle exchanges between her and Kurt, laced with history and softness. Their love, untouched by ceremony but sealed by time, has aged into something sacred. They still laugh, still touch, still glance across rooms and remember 1,000 unspoken promises. Theirs is not a love built on spectacle, but on presence, on choosing each other even when no one's watching. Family has become her deepest grounding. Her relationship with Kate and Oliver has transformed into a quiet, mutual admiration. Less about dependence, more about reverence. They no longer ask her to be there in every moment, because now they feel her in every moment. A random call, a shared laugh, watching Wyatt chase his own toddler through the yard. These aren't just days, they are gems, shining with memory and meaning. Her grandchildren bring a sparkle to her eyes that no spotlight ever could. When they ask, "Grandma, were you really in the movies?" They aren't asking about fame. They're asking about legacy, about the woman behind the light. But even in this gentle season, Goldie hasn't stepped away from purpose. Her mind-up foundation continues to change. Lives across the globe, now reaching more than 35 countries, giving children the tools to face the same storms she once battled in silence. Emotional literacy, mindfulness, inner calm, these are not just trends, they are lifelines. Teachers call it revolutionary, parents call it hope, and children, the anxious, the overlooked, the hurting, call it home. And in this calling, Goldie has stepped into her most honest role, not as a performer, but as a healer. She no longer delivers punchlines. She delivers peace. No longer acts. She listens, teaches, breathes. Through trembling voices and still rooms, she offers what the world so often forgets: presence. And her message is clear: real beauty doesn't need applause. Her career remains untouchable, her cultural impact undeniable. She didn't just play women, she redefined them. She gave permission for beauty to be funny, for silliness to carry sorrow, for fragility to become power. And in doing so, she opened doors, not with noise, but with truth. So now, as her steps slow, as her vision fades, as the spotlight drifts elsewhere, Goldie Hawn doesn't retreat. She radiates because the light she once gave the world is still burning, not on marquees, but in hearts. And that is the only kind of fame that never dies. When old age arrives, it does not crash through the door like youth once did. It drifts in softly, like dusk at the end of a golden day. It comes through trembling fingers and slower footsteps, through laughter that lingers only in memory, and songs once sung, now heard only in silence. Today, the world holds its breath. Not because Goldie Hawn is gone, but because something sacred is quietly slipping beyond our reach. She who once lit the screen with every glance, who made us believe that life, even in its chaos, could still sparkle, is now facing the most human of truths. Time waits for no one. And that truth cuts deeper when it touches someone who once lifted the world with nothing but a smile. Her vision has dimmed, her body has slowed, and though her voice remains, it speaks now with a softness that aches. The woman who once gave us entire galaxies of joy now lives in the still, quiet corners of her home. Her stage no longer made of cameras and lights, but of memory and meaning. It is not a fall from grace. It is a surrender to time. But oh, how it hurts to witness someone who gave so much, who was sunshine in human form, now retreat into the gentle shadows of aging. There is no injustice greater than watching light become flicker, voice become whisper, presence become memory. And yet, even now, Goldie Hawn is luminous. Because she is not just a name on a marquee or a face frozen in film. She is a feeling, woven into our childhoods, our laughter, our healing. She is the sound of a theater erupting in joy, the comfort of a mother and daughter laughing on the couch, the echo of a line that still makes us smile years later. Her legacy is not just in awards, it's in us, in the way she made us feel less alone, in the way she taught us that strength can wear lipstick, that resilience can dance, that beauty doesn't need permission to be brave. She taught us that it's okay to be broken, as long as we keep shining. So if you've ever laughed with her, cried for her, or felt even an ounce of warmth from her work, don't let that feeling fade. Honor it, hold it, pass it on, because that is what Goldie always did. She gave us her light, even when hers was flickering. If her joy ever softened your day, if her presence ever made you feel seen, if her story now brings a tear to your eye, let her know. Click like, and in the comments, share your memory, your gratitude, your truth. Let your words be a lantern, lighting the path back to her, so that even as the curtain draws, she knows. We remember. We always will.